Welcome to my 10,000 mile review of my 2019 Honda CRF450L. Today we're going to be shooting the 10,000 mile review here on River Road outside of your best guess down below. Everybody knows where we are. My CRF450L just rolled over 10,000 miles 2,000 miles ago on the Idaho backcountry discovery route. Actually, I have a little over 12,000 on it now. Here's the point this whole video is going to be about. Nothing has changed from the 12,000 miles to the 10,000 miles when it rolled over, to the 6,000 mile review, to the 3,000 mile review, all the way back to day one. So you understand where we're coming from with our 10/12,000 mile review on this. What I've done on the bike, I've done the Colorado BDR, I've done the Utah backcountry discovery route, if you don't know, the Arizona backcountry discovery route when it was 110 degrees out, which don't do, that was stupid. Utah BDR, and I just did the Idaho backcountry discovery route. Of the 12,000 miles, probably a solid 9,000 of those miles are off-road in the dirt. And the rest are going to be on highways, everything from 2-lane like we're at now to 4-lane, 80 miles an hour speed limit roads. I've done the expert sections of the BDRs. I've also done the Rimrocker Trail. I've done Lockhart Basin, you know, stuff like that. I've taken it trail riding around my house. So of the 9,000 dirt miles, I'm going to have to guess that 8,000 of those were loaded down like you see here with at least 40 pounds of gear on the back, if not closer to 60 pounds. In the 12,000 miles I've ridden this bike everywhere, I've probably dropped it 100 times, maybe more. So when we're talking about Honda reliability, so you understand, that's what my bike has been through. Part one of the review is going to be the most obvious thing, and the answer to the question I always get of why not the KTM 500? Why not this bike? Why not that bike? Why not this bike? This is this is a Honda through and through. I've had 12,000 trouble-free miles with this bike. I've done the valve clearance checks. I've done oil analysis. I've done all the things you're supposed to do to the bike while racking miles on it. And so far I have had zero issues. I've had no real issues. Now, having said that, I've taken care of the bike. I've changed the oil every between 600 and the longest I've gone was 1,400 miles. I've done all the maintenance you're supposed to do. And the only part that has fallen off the bike, the only thing, has been the stamped piece that holds the chain slider down in the back. And to be fair, I replaced the chain slider, so I installed that part. I have a lot of aftermarket parts on this bike, but the closest I've come to doing anything to the engine has been putting the Vortex ECU on. Engine itself is completely stock. I haven't put in a hot cam or anything like that. I did remove the thermostat. I did the thermostat delete kit and got rid of the EPA stuff, but I haven't added any parts to the motor. Everything in here, the suspension, other than the spring, is all Honda parts. Underneath, it's still the same bike it was when I bought it 2.5 years ago, at its core. Now, I've just told you that I have had 12,000 trouble-free miles with my bike, but there are some gremlins that have been reported with these bikes, flameout being one, where the bike's always dying, usually at the low speed when you're pulling out, Sometimes I've heard when you're shifting from second to third, in that idle time, the bike just quits. I've had this stall on me for no reason that I could think of twice. And I guess that would be the flame out everyone's talking about, but just those 2 times, and both were super low speed things. Other gremlins are things like Honda being stingy with the grease on the suspension and the head bearings and stuff like that. I pulled my suspension apart and looked at it. It has grease. It doesn't have a ton of grease. They did not go through and schmutz as much as you and I would put in there for sure, but there is grease. It's not that there's no grease, it's just not enough for some people. Another gremlin I've heard of are starters or the engagement gear going bad. Again, I haven't had that, but I have heard reports of some people's doing that. The last gremlin that apparently Honda took care of with the RL model is the twitchy on-off throttle, which comes from when you cut the throttle, it cuts all of the fuel coming out of the fuel injector almost to zero, enough to keep the bike idling, but that's it. And what happens is when you hit the throttle to whatever position, it kicks on the fuel injector and you get that bump. That is a thing. Apparently, again, they fixed it in the RL model. Mine, I fixed that with the throttle tamer. I fixed that with the Vortex ECU. And if you don't want to add all that stuff, please believe me, if you get used to the throttle, you will figure out how to throttle on your bike without pulling a wheelie every time. It'll happen. You don't need to add those things. You just need time with that throttle and being super precise with it. Oh, that's awesome. Those are the gremlins of the bike. Let's real quick talk about what some of the issues might be. The biggest issue is the 600-mile oil changes. And I pushed that out to 1,000 and a few more miles. And so far the oil analysis has always come back that there are no wear indicators in the oil. The other issues are the 1,800-mile valve clearances, and we just talked about that 12,000 miles and the valves are exactly where they were from day one. And there's other people with tens of thousands of miles on their CRF450Ls who are reporting the same thing, that the valves are not needing to be reshimmed. And again, I think Honda did a really good job of detuning their Unicam motor just enough that the reliability has gone through the roof. The longevity of the motor is through the roof without turning it into kind of a dog, right? I mean, even out of the box, you're still getting 38, 39, almost 40 horses. So that's pretty good for a bike that weighs 290 pounds stock. Wet weight. KTM, y'all are cheaters. Another issue with the bike, in my opinion, are the stock tires that come with it. The RCs are really great road tires. They're really great 50-50, maybe a little more dirt-oriented tire. But off-road, I hated them. I really did not like them. And when I finally changed them out, I found that the tires were extremely thin. Manufacturers will do that to lower the weight of their bike, number one, and number two, give it better mile per gallon, better horsepower number, right? Because they have less tire they have to roll. Honda in that department totally cheated by putting those IRC tires on. Another issue for some people on a stock bike might be its 2-gallon tank. So with a range of 80 to 100, 110 miles, depending on where you're going and what you're doing, the range, it might not be enough. Obviously, if you're going to do some adventure riding or some longer distance dual sporting, it's way too small. IMS makes a great 3-gallon tank. The Nomad 5-gallon 20-liter tank has been, for my adventure riding, a game changer. This tank is just super well built. Looks wise, I think I did a review on that too, right? Looks wise, it's a little rough here and there, but it's really solid. Is the CRF450L a good beginner's bike? That answer totally depends on you. At 290 pounds and 36 and almost 37 inches in height, it's a little big and it's a little tall. So if you're a smaller rider, I would say no. Find something lighter and shorter, obviously. If you're a pretty big guy, you know, 6 foot plus and, you know, 9,000 pounds, whatever, this is probably a great beginner bike for you. If you're coming from the dirt, right, you've been an MXer your whole life, a trail rider, now you want to get into adventure riding, this is probably a really good bike for you. It's already a dirt bike with the turn signals and a horn and a license plate and the whole 9 yards. You already know how to operate it, you already know how to change the oil and all that. So I'm going to say yes, this is a good beginner adventure rider bike for you. If you are coming from the roadside, no, not such a good bike. For all the reasons I just said about the dirt bike riders. Right? So guys who ride on the road are used to 3,000, 5,000, 6,000 mile oil and filter changes. They've never looked at the airbox once, and all they do is use the front brake the whole time. This might have a learning curve for you. You might want to stick with like a T7. So go out and get the Yamaha Tenere 700 and ride that until you realize that the suspension is too weak and it's too short and it's still kind of heavy. Then you might want to think about getting this bike. If you are a seasoned adventure rider and you've had whatever, you've had a GS, you've had whatever you've had. You've been adventure riding everywhere and now you're looking back on all those trails wishing your bike was lighter to pick up. That really, really rocky Baby Hill section you could have gone over instead of taking the easier way around. You're looking to have more fun, more deeper adventures. You're not so worried about the comfort level anymore, right? You've got your leather ass, you've got your frostbit fingers. What more is there to do? Then you might want to look at the CRF450L as it's modified so that it'll actually be a good adventure partner for you. In my opinion, it's probably going to be a really good bike. You're really going to like this thing. Now, I went for the adventure build on my motorcycle, and for me, this platform is a really, really good platform for an adventure bike, for a light adventure bike. It has all the maneuverability of a dirt bike. It is a dirt bike, but it's also beefed up enough that it can handle the extra weight of 50 pounds of gear, of a 20-liter tank. It has 6 gears like the X, right? So you can get on the highway and you can get up to speed. You can do 80 miles an hour if you have to. My bike tops out around 95-ish, maybe a little bit more the way I have it geared. I'm more worried about gearing it low so it pulls out with a load than I am about going over 100 miles an hour. And at 100 miles an hour on this bike, well, at 95, because that's as fast as I can go, on this bike, it gets a little awkward. It's a little light. The other great part of this Honda is that it's got all the Showa parts the same that are on the R. It's just sprung a little differently. While we're on the subject of the suspension, I did the rim rocker trail when I first got the bike, and I put an IMS tank on it. That was the only modification I did to the bike. It was a stock ECU, stock suspension, and it did just fine. Now that I'm doing adventure rides but going a good bit faster on this bike, I did find that I needed a heavier rear spring to hold everything up. So I have a video on the Racetech 6.0 spring. Again, 6.0 is just what I put on. It's a compromise between loaded down adventure bike and unloaded trail bike. So keep that in mind for however you want to ride your bike. If you always ride it adventure, you might want to get a bigger spring. If you never put any weight on it, don't change the spring at all. Everything's good. Everybody who's new to the channel, you can see I've got a lot of non-standard bits and pieces on my bike, right? There is probably a video for just about everything you're looking at. I really try to make videos for everything, okay? So if you want to know about my specific build, just go back and look through the playlist, and it's probably on there somewhere, okay? Everything from our pivot pegs worth it to our steg pegs, the ultimate, yes, everybody needs these, get these, to what's the best hand guards, Zeta Pros, right, to how high is your riser, just high enough to clear my steering damper. Do I need a steering damper? Nobody needs a steering damper, but I really like mine. How do you navigate? I have an 8-inch Samsung tablet running Navigator Pro. What about in the winter? I have heated grips. If you live in Colorado, you already know about heated grips, or you're wishing you knew about them, right? And if you look down below, I try to keep the list of everything that's on the bike as current as I can, so the list should match each video. So if you're wondering what's on the bike right now, just go down there. I hate to tell you where to go to buy stuff. I would rather have you go to your local shop if you can, or find someone whose specialty or their philosophy or whatever aligns with yours, so you have a better relationship with them. So I don't normally tell people where to go to buy parts. I'll give you the name of the part. Google is a thing. Just type it in, hit enter. Understand that almost every part that fits in X will fit in L. And if you're not sure if it'll fit the X and the L, manufacturers have websites and phone numbers. I'm just saying. My reviews are really starting to sound like a broken record, which I think is a really good thing. I have nothing new to add. I've told you all the good stuff. I haven't really discovered anything bad to warn you about. The worst thing I can say is that I once found that my left foot peg was loose. And I tightened it, and that was the end of the issue. I'm going to blame that one on Honda because I didn't do anything with the foot peg itself. I guess that concludes my 10,000/12,000 mile review of my 2019 CRF450L. The bike just continues to perform without failure. It just does. And I don't know what higher compliment I can give to any machine than it just works. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this all the time. I really appreciate it. I am truly humbled by how many wonderful people and great comments I get, and I'm a little scared too. All right, again, questions, comments down below, and let's talk about how many tens of thousands of miles you have on your dirt bike and what's fallen off of it so far. I got 0 on that one, okay? All right.